I'll never forget this night. The pizza place I worked in was about to close when the phone rang. I was working the counter alone that night, so I picked up the phone. There was complete silence, so I hung up. About a minute later, the phone rings, so I pick up again. Still, silence. I was about to hang up again when I heard a weak and cold voice of an old lady. She said she wanted a regular pie to be delivered. I was very polite, but inside I was steaming. I wanted to go home and end my shift. I called my boss and told him that there was another delivery. He said I had to go, but I could close up after. I was upset, but I knew that late calls usually give up good tips. So I told the lady it would be at her home shortly. But she had already hung up. So I told the chef one more order. The house was 7 miles away. It was a very small house. I rang the doorbell, but there was no answer. The lights were off. I rang again, but nothing. I was about to walk away when I see the curtains move. There was a shadowy figure at the window. I couldn't see who it was, so I got closer to the window. It was the elderly lady, about 70 years old. She stood there, just looking at me with a blank look on her face. I told her I had her pizza, but she made no response. I thought she probably didn't hear me, so I screamed it louder. She looked at me and smiled, but not a normal smile, a bone-chilling, eerie smile. I still remember to this day that woman's face with that horrible smile. I was so freaked out, I just turned around and walked to my car with the pizza. I texted my boss to tell him I couldn't deliver the pizza. When I looked out the passenger window, to see the woman standing outside my car with the same evil smile. I put my car in drive and floored it. My boss never made me make a late night delivery again. This happened about 4 years ago when I was in high school. I was told to do my last delivery, so I got in my old car and headed out. I live upstate in the country, so all pizza deliveries were a long drive. I remember the sun was starting to set, so I would say it was about 7 o'clock. I'd say after 15 minutes of driving, I finally got there. It was a very old house made completely out of wood. It was sitting all by itself surrounded by a forest. The lawn was completely unkept. I was used to all this, so I didn't think anything of it. I took the pizza to the front door. There was no doorknob, so I knocked and yelled, "It's the pizza guy with your pizza." Nothing, so I repeated. Suddenly I heard footsteps from the inside heading to the door and stop. But they didn't open the door, they just stood there. I yelled again, "It's the pizza guy." A low voice said from beyond the door, "Bring it to the back of the house." I was reluctant. I asked him, "Are you sure, sir?" No answer. I was about to walk back to the car, but I didn't want to have a problem with my boss. Last time I brought back a pizza, I was almost fired. So I treaded lightly as I made my way to the back of the house through the brush. I come across a figure of someone sitting in a chair in my opposite direction in the porch, staring off into the distance. "Excuse me, I have your pizza." But it didn't move, nor talk. I repeated myself, but nothing. I hear a voice coming from the door just past the silent figure. "Psst, hey, over here." I look into the direction of the whisper and see this man poking his head through the old door. He had this weird, unnatural smile, as if he knew something I didn't. He says, "Come here, I want to show you something." I was so scared. I ran back to my car and drove away. As soon as I got back into town, I called the cops. I got called back from the police who informed me that there was no one there, nor was there signs of anyone being there for a long time. I quit my job a few days later. I have no idea what would have happened to me if I would have gone up to that man, and I don't want to know. I was doing a nighttime delivery. I live in a very rural town. This night was very foggy with poor visibility, which was rare this time of year. As I was driving down a dirt road, I see this person jump in front of my car. I feel an impact in my front bumper screeching to a stop. I quickly got out of my car. The man was on the ground in front of the car. He was wearing a black hoodie over his head. As I was about to bend down to touch him, I heard a voice from inside the woods crying for help. I turned around without a second thought, ran into the woods in the direction of the scream. I yelled out, "Hello, anyone there?" Complete silence, but the sound of the crickets. When I feel like I'm being watched, I see a shadowy figure just about 10 feet away from me, hiding behind a tree. I yell, "Are you okay?" But nothing. The figure just stands there now in front of the tree. It seemed as if it was staring at me for hours. I got so scared I ran back into the direction of my car. When I got there, the man that was lying on the ground was gone. I hopped in my car and drove away. I decided to go to my next delivery address anyway. I was shaken, but just glad I got out of there. I walked up to the door, and a lady opened the door as I was giving her her change. She looked past me in the direction of my car and says, "They letting you guys have delivery partners now?" I was confused and asked her what she meant, and she told me, "You have someone with you sitting in your car." I looked back and saw someone sitting in the back seat of my car. I called the cops from the customer's house phone, and they arrived shortly after, but the person in my car was already gone. The scariest thing about this was that the cops found a blood-stained knife on the floor of my back seat. I'm haunted by this every day. I can genuinely tell you, it's painfully scary to imagine how things could have gone if I didn't do that last delivery. Thanks guys for checking out this narration. Please subscribe as I put out new videos every Tuesday and Thursday night. You can also like this video along with commenting. Do you have any scary stories from when you were delivering pizza? Which one of those scared you the most? Once you're done doing all that, you can check out playlists of videos from creepypastas to original stories that I've written, even true stories like this one. If you have any scary stories that are true or otherwise and would like for me to narrate it, you can email me at danscares@gmail.com. Until next time, sleep tight.